Okay, now that I've got the review of Pokemon Legends Arceus done, I figured it's time I talk about the newer Pokemon that was introduced in this game, more specifically the new legendary Pokemon, Enamorus. But before I do that, I have to talk about the Pokemon that Enamorus are related to, more specifically the group known as the Forces of Nature. Now, for those of you who don't know, the Forces of Nature were a trio of Pokemon that were introduced in Pokemon Black and White, and were slightly more expanded upon in Black and White too. And they go by many names, the Kame Trio, or the Three Legendary Genies. And before I continue, these are not genies, they don't grant any sort of type of wishes whatsoever. The only genie Pokemon is Hoopa. So let's start off with Tornadus and Thundurus, which according to legend would race across the Unova region, wreaking destruction everywhere and not caring about settlements. And eventually they were actually quelled by the Pokemon known as Landorus. Now, both Tornadus and Thundurus are actually based off of two mythological beings known as Fujin, the Kami of Wind, and Raijin, the Kami of Lightning. Now, for those of you who don't know, Kami are essentially Japanese gods. And fun fact, Tornadus and Thundurus were originally supposed to be a duo, and their colors were supposed to be red and blue, representing two Oni. But they scrapped it because, well, they already had two Pokemon representing the Oni. So they had to come up with a third Pokemon, that Pokemon being Landorus, who's actually based off of the god of foxes and fertility known as Inari. Which makes sense because Landorus is known for helping crops grow. And for the most part, that's pretty much it for them in Pokemon Black and White. And to be honest, I thought it was pretty much going to be the end for this legendary trio. Well, not technically trio, but we'll get to that later. But Pokemon Black and White 2 introduced the item known as the Reveal Glass, a mirror that transforms all three of them into their Therian forms, which is their animal forms. Thundurus is transformed into a dragon, though why doesn't it game the dragon type? I don't know. Tornadus is transformed into a giant bird, and Landorus is transformed into a cat-like creature. Okay, a little confusing. And we get the question whether or not they're Therian forms or their incarnate forms, which is the forms they have where they're humanoid, are their actual true forms. At least not in this generation, until Pokemon Legends Arceus introduced us to the newest legendary known as Enamorus. Now, Enamorus is the newest member of the Forces of Nature, being a fairy flying type. Not only that, it's the only female member of the Forces of Nature, which makes sense given the fairy typing. Not only that, its hair is tied in the shape of a heart. But the weirdest part is, why does it have a snake-like tail? Well, it has something to do with what it's based off of. Another Kami of harvest and fertility, called Ugajin. I think that's how you pronounce it. Let me know in the comments section below on how you pronounce this thing. I really don't want to butcher its name. But anyways, Ugajin is often represented as both a male and a female, oftentimes with the body of a snake and the head of either a bearded man or a woman. And given Enamorus' design, it honestly makes sense. Now let's talk about its role within the Pokemon world. And according to Legends Arceus, it's known as the Herald of Spring or the Goddess of Spring. Its arrival in the Hisui region signals the end of winter, and that its love is said to give life in the Hisui region, along with Landorus. And because of this, the duo were often revered as gods in the Hisui region. Kind of the opposite of both Tornadus and Thundurus, because both Tornadus and Thundurus would oftentimes cause destruction amongst the land, while Enamorus and Landorus would give life to the land, making them polar opposites, but would also have them balance things out, which would draw back to the yin and yang theme in Pokemon Black and White. So, like its male counterparts, it also has a Therian form, thanks to the Reveal Glass obviously. And it transforms into a tortoise with a snake for a tail, which is kind of random. Why a tortoise with a snake for a tail? It doesn't make sense. But in actuality, it does make sense for Enamorus to be a tortoise, because it also explains the animals that the other Forces of Nature turn into: a bird, a dragon, a feline-like creature, and a tortoise. These are essentially the four symbols of China, four mythological creatures that guard the four cardinal directions of the world: the azure dragon of the east, the vermilion bird of the south, the white tiger of the west, and the black tortoise of the north. They also represent the four seasons, which actually ties back to Enamorus' role in bringing about spring. So that's pretty much it. That's all the members of the forces of nature, right? I mean, it's the four symbols of China, so that's pretty much it, right? Well, in actuality, no, because technically there aren't four symbols of China. There's actually a fifth member, one that represents the center, which is known as the Yellow Dragon, or depending on which interpretation, the Yellow Quinlan. Now, why am I bringing this up? Well, there could be a possibility that there's a fifth member of the forces of nature, one that represents summer, or midsummer given the fact that it's represented by the yellow dragon. And according to mythology, the yellow dragon is said to rule over the other four, and it's also in charge of keeping them in balance. Meaning, if they introduce a fifth member of the forces of nature, it would essentially be the master of this quartet, similar to how Regigigas is the master of all the legendary titans. And honestly, it makes sense given the fact that in every single video game adaptation of the four symbols of China, you often see a golden dragon that's the most powerful one of them all. For example, in the Digimon series, you have the four Digimon Sovereign, and at the center you have a golden dragon that leads them. Or in some cases, it's a fusion of all four of them, which is also seen in Shin Megami Tensei. So perhaps we could see a fifth member of the Forces of Nature make an appearance in the upcoming Scarlet and Violet's post-game, or even in Generation 10, or even in the inevitable Pokemon Black and White remake. So that's pretty much it, right? There's 5 members of the Forces of Nature. That's all, right? Well, actually, according to Chinese mythology, there are 4 dark counterparts to the 4 symbols of China, beings that represent chaos, gluttony, deviousness, and ignorance. Plus, it isn't out of the realm of possibility to have evil legendary Pokemon. I mean, we've kind of had that in the form of Eternatus, Alternate Chrozma, so it wouldn't be impossible to have a group of 5 evil legendary Pokemon. In fact, they could also be based off of the 4 Horsemen of the Apocalypse, assuming Game Freak wants to go that route. But what do you guys think? Do you like my explanation on the forces of nature? Do you have your own theories about the forces of nature? Let me know in the comment section below. Don't forget to like this video, share this video, and if you want to subscribe to the channel, please subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you guys all on the next video. Take care.